All right, lesson 2.6, solving polynomial equations by factoring. And this is the roots of higher order polynomial equations, so bigger than a quadratic, okay? We will see some quadratics, but it would be x cubed, x to the fourth, x to the sixth power. Okay, do this. We'll check it in class tomorrow. All right, so factor by grouping. Remember, factor by grouping is used with a polynomial with 4 terms. Okay, and the deal is you have to have a GCF when we're done with the factoring. Okay, so I'm going to group the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. I have a GCF of x squared, so when I factor that out, that leaves me with x plus 5. And now what's so nice about factoring by grouping, if this is x plus 5, it's got to be the same greatest common factor over there. So what do I need to factor out of the next 2 terms? If I take out a negative 4, it'll leave me with an x plus 5 as a factor. Okay, so now when I put them back together, x plus 5 is common in both terms, leaving me with x squared minus 4. So for practice sake, I'm going to continue to factor this. X plus 5. And then my second binomial is the difference of perfect squares. So that would factor to x minus 2 times x plus 2. And now my zeros are easy. Negative 5, positive 2, negative 2. Okay, so you do this one on your own. Okay, so factor completely and then solve it. Okay, factoring by the quadratic form. All right, so the quadratic form is a trinomial. So it has 3 terms, and it fits some form where you have something being squared, and then you always have to have a constant. So you're going to have 2 variables here, and the form remains the same. The middle term, that is going to be squared for the first term in the trinomial, and we'll talk about what this means. Okay, so here is a quadratic trinomial, right? I have my x squared term. So factoring this, we're used to doing that. So you can verify these factors on your own. 2x plus 1, 3x minus 5. So my roots would be negative half and positive 5/3. Okay, domain is all real numbers. I don't have to worry about losing or gaining roots. All good. Okay, so now check this out. Now it fits the fact that it's a trinomial, but now look at what's happening. My exponents are not 2, 1, 0. So now to fit the form, I have 1 times something being squared minus 1 minus 6. So notice the quadratic form is my middle term here is x cubed. And when I square x cubed, that's where my x to the 6th comes from. So anything you need to look for, 3 terms, and then your lead coefficient, or no, your degree is 2 times what the exponent, the other exponent in the equation is. But what's so nice about it, it factors the exact same way. So you're still looking for factors of negative 6 that add to negative 1. So that's going to be negative 3 times 2. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. But now check out what the lead coefficients have, or I keep saying lead coefficient, what the first terms have to be in the factors. The first terms in the factors is always going to be whatever the degree of your middle term is. So this is going to be x cubed times x cubed. Because how do I get x to the 6th power? X cubed times x cubed, I add those exponents together. So now when I go to solve, I use the exact same method. Set each individual factor equal to 0. Now when I solve, I get x cubed is equal to positive 3. And to get x alone, I would take the cube root of my answer. And now I have x cubed is equal to negative 2, and you are allowed to take an odd root of a negative number. So x equals the cube root of negative 2. These would be my two solutions. Okay, these are exact values. You do not need a calculator. You would just leave your answer like that. All right, part C, it's quadratic form, 3 terms. My degree is 2 times what my middle term is. So I know it's going to factor into a binomial. Factors of negative 4 that add to negative 3. Negative 4 plus 1 gives me negative 3. Negative 4 times 1 gives me negative 4. But now my first terms, I just have to have an x squared in there. Okay, setting each individual factor equal to 0. Okay, that's my intermediate step. You don't necessarily need to write this. X squared equals 4. When I take the square root, 2 answers exist, so plus or minus 2. And then I get x squared is equal to negative 1. When I take the square root of negative 1, that's where I comes from. Okay, so there are my 4 roots, 4 answers, corresponds to the degree. These are my real solutions. These are my imaginary solutions. Okay, so why don't you try these for homework? Try those 2 for homework. And you also have this problem for homework, and do the warm-up. Okay, that's it for today.